In this lesson, we are about to test another Vue component which resides inside header called the header progress. And the purpose of this component is to show the current progress of the day, meaning that if we'll assign the time for every activity, and then we'll start tracking the time for each type of our activities, this progress is going to be increasing. So let's go ahead and quickly create test file for the header progress component. So we have to decide how we will test this component, and first of all I suggest to check the implementation of this component, so we have an idea what we can test first. And as an initial step, I suggest that we test that this href attribute is going to contain the value that we expect. So I'm gonna say in the first testing scenario it has href attribute with progress page hash. And indeed, if in the browser we're going to click on this label, we're going to get redirected to the progress page. And it will be actually quite easy to test. So first of all, let's render our component by using shallow mount and then write our expectation. So we are testing that certain attribute contains proper value. And for that, we can extract the value of the href attribute by using attributes method like so. And then let's call method to be to compare the received value with the value that we expect. So we expect this attribute to be equal to the progress page hash that we can get from page name enumeration. So basically in here we are using the same value that is used inside the href attribute. So the test is passing, and if we'll remove that attribute, sure enough the test is going to fail. Let's keep going and create another testing scenario. Actually, before doing that, let's combine these two lines into one by inlining this function called shallow mount, like so. Alright, now let's move on to the next testing scenario, and this scenario is going to check that this label shows current progress in percentage. I'm gonna create new testing scenario for it, where I'll say it shows current progress. And then I'm gonna do some preparation in here, basic stuff such as rendering the component, printing out its markup in the terminal for debugging purposes. So if we'll take a look at the rendered text of this component in the terminal, we're actually going to see the label which says day complete. And that is because inside the header progress component we're using the if directive, and if this directive will have falsy value, we're going to render this piece of template with the else directive. And in here we're seeing that label day complete. So to test that this component is going to show the current progress, we somehow have to force this component to render the first div with the if directive. In other words, we have to find the way to control these values to make this condition turn true. And we are getting this percentage variable from the composable function use total progress. So now we're going to mock the whole module, which allows us to tweak this composable function and force it to return the value that we need. So this way we can control the return value of this function. I'm going to copy over this import statement for use total progress composable function into our test. And then let's call method mock, which allows us to mock whole module. And as the first parameter, we're specifying the path to that module that we are about to mock. So I'm gonna use the path to total progress module, like so. And then as the second parameter, we're going to pass the function, which is going to return the value which will contain all those things that our fake implementation of the total progress module is going to export. So I'm only going to return an object which consists of one key, use total progress, because that is the only thing that our total progress module returns. As we can see, it exports only one function with the name use total progress. So now we have to somehow force the return value that this function is going to return. And we can do so by calling another method called fn on the vi object, which takes one parameter that will be the function. This function will be new implementation for use total progress function. And in here we can override the return value of the use total progress function. So let's return an object from here. Because the original implementation of this composable function returns object with two keys, color class and percentage, as we can see in here. And then we are destructuring this return value in our component and extracting these keys, percentage and color class. So we actually have to maintain the same shape of the return value and use same keys of the object in our mock implementation of this function. So let's figure out what values do those keys contain in original implementation of the composable function. And as we can see in here, both of those values have to be computed properties. That is why I'm also going to use function computed to create values for both of those keys. But the thing is that we can actually control values for these computed properties in our mock implementation. So I will make the first computed property to return medium % constant, which has value of 66. And for the second computed property, I'm gonna use an enumeration called progress color class and reference red value. So once again, let's go back to the original implementation and see where value for color class computed property comes from. It is coming from this getProgressColorClass function call. Let's take a look at its implementation. So all this function does is it decides which element of the ProgressColorClass enumeration to return based on the provided percentage value. And every element of the ProgressColorClass enumeration is a simple Tailwind CSS class, which corresponds to a particular background color. So now that we have mocked total progress module in our test and swapped original implementation of the use total progress composable function with our mocked one, which returns the value that we have specified right here. And this means that during test execution, this use total progress composable function is going to return the value that we have specified earlier in the test. So this way we have full control over these values in our test. And it will not be a problem anymore to force this condition to return true. Before getting to the test implementation, let's just use blue color for this computed property. So now if we'll take a look at the terminal and see which label will be printed, this time we're seeing the percentage, and this percentage is 66. And that is because earlier we have specified that the percentage property should store value which corresponds to medium % constant, and this constant has value of 66, as we can see. And that is why we're saying that this value is used in the label. So now in our test we can check that this component shows proper percentage. Let's extract the text of the component and then call method to contain. In here, we are providing the string that we are expecting to see. So the label should say progress, colon, and then the value of the percentage. In this case, we can get the expected percentage from medium % constant, like this. Because once again, when we have mocked the return value of the use total progress composable function, we have specified that this percentage computed property should store value of medium % constant. Let's also append the percentage sign to the end of this label, remove this print statement, and check test execution. It is passing. So I'm also going to inline this function call right here, remove this modifier only, and run all tests in the project. Everything is passing. Let's continue in the next one.